Everyone. Thank you all for joining. Sorry for the slight delay. We were having some technical issues, but we're back. Welcome to this Product People event. Before starting, as always, please remember that you can watch the stream on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitch. Also, a reminder that this talk will be recorded. So if you want to share it afterwards with your fellow PMs, just head out to our YouTube channel. We will also have a Slido running for you in the background to give you some insights and ask questions directly to the speaker. So you can scan the link or go to the website and enter the code. Today's topic is why do 95% of product teams fail? It's hosted by Uriel. Uriel began his career among the first engineers at Mercado Libre, helping shape its rise into Latin America's leading e-commerce and digital payments platform. With a career spanning multiple regions, he has led high-performing product and technology teams across e-commerce, mobility, and fintech. Today, Uriel leads the core products team at Edenred and is the author of Digital Irreverent, where he shares his philosophy on building successful teams and driving meaningful digital transformation. I'll also briefly introduce myself. I'm Hamza Atiq. I'm an associate product management consultant at Product People. I have over 3 years in product and 2+ years in product marketing. I'll also briefly tell you a bit of what we do at Product People. Our mission is to help companies discover and deliver great products faster. We do interim product management. We empower product management community to share knowledge generously while managing the hands-on work of a product manager, owner, ops, or product leader on a fractional basis. We onboard fast, align teams, and deliver outcomes thanks to our in-house team. We also curate free events like this one for one of the biggest PM communities in Europe that has over 60,000 members. Now, let's do a quick icebreaker before we start the session. We have a question for you. You can open slido.com and enter the number you see on the screen. And again, you can scan the QR code. For the ones watching on other platforms, feel free to share your answers in the comments. So, our question for you is, if someone in your team is asked by a senior leader in the company, why are you building what you're building, and doesn't know the answer, what do you do? Uh, A, you jump quickly to explain which other senior leader requested to build this. B, join the conversation to explain the case behind this initiative and the expected impact. C, you do not get involved. It's normal that people don't understand this, especially developers. And D, you take your time with the team and ask them the same question and walk them through the product case. You, I'll give you a couple of minutes and then you can quickly answer. Okay, let's wait for a little bit. I encourage everyone to scan the QR code and leave some opinions. We have a vote for taking time with your team to ask them the same question and walking them through the product case. Interesting. Um, we also have some votes for jumping quickly to explain which other senior leader requested us to build this. And then on An equal second place is I joined the conversation to explain the case behind this initiative and the expected impact. But it seems like most of the votes are going for D. Uh, okay, yeah, I think D is the clear winner over here. And I think to save time, we can go ahead. I think we have enough answers to form some conclusions. Meanwhile, feel free to keep the Slido tab open and type out any questions you have for Uriel while he gives his presentation. Moving on, I'll just give a brief intro of the top. Most teams are immersed in authority driven development, running in circles, trying to deliver something that someone else defined, ignoring what they actually need to achieve. Successful product organizations are deliberately irrelevant, people first, and impact driven. Drawing on lessons from Digital Irreverent, Uriel offers simple, durable practices to align business ambition with product development. I will now hand it over to Uriel.
Excellent. Can you hear me well, Hamza?
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you so much for the intro. Thank you, the product people team, and everybody that is joining the live, and for the votes on answer D, which makes me happy that we are going to that direction. So, without further ado, already. Uh, uh, so that my intro, so I will go straight to the content. Why do 95% of product teams fail? And this is lessons from a digital irreverent. Irreverent coming a little bit from the title of my book called Digital Irreverent. I will go into that topic a little bit more in the next slides. So a little bit about my story. I will go back in time when I had hair. Buenos Aires, Argentina, 2005. I joined a company, very important e-commerce company today in that region. I was working at the sixth floor of this team, and I had my first meeting with what I can call a business stakeholder in that company, the head of supply, that he was going to tell me a system that he had to develop for his department related to high performing sellers of the platform. So I took the elevator to the eighth floor. I sat down with this person called Marcelino. He explained to me what he needed in that system, what he needed in the tool, and I wrote down the requirements. I was very proud, even if it was my first year working at a real company developing software as a software engineer. I was confident that I could figure out a way to develop what he wanted. I went back to my desk and I started analyzing the requirements to make that happen as soon as I could. But the day after, I met my CTO, and he asked me about the meeting. How did it go? How was your meeting with Marcelino? And I told him it was great. I took all the requirements. I think I can develop this in around 2 to 3 months, and this is what I do. Like, I'm very good technically, and I can make this happen pretty confidently. And then he asked me one question: but why are you building this? My immediate answer was because this head of supply told me that he needed this tool. So I'm the engineer, he's the business person, and that's what we do, right? And that was the last time I've ever answered something like this in my career. Not only because what the company that I was working at taught me, but because it changed my way of looking at product and engineering teams since that moment. Basically, that answer was unacceptable at this company because everybody had to understand really, really well why we were doing what we were doing. I learned right away that we had to figure out a way to detect at that moment in time, 2005, where e-commerce was not yet mature, how to detect the high potential sellers that could grow the ecosystem of e-commerce in that region, that they were digitizing their business, and we had to find a way to detect patterns to know which were the ones that were going to grow more. So I did things initially the way somebody requested to me, but there were many ways to achieve that objective. And if I didn't understand really well why we were doing what we were doing, I would have missed big part of that picture. So my initial belief of I'm the engineer, there's somebody that is taking care of a business side of the company and will tell me what to do, and that I should stay in my lane and that other person will stay in his lane. That was definitely not the case in this company. And I never worked like that again, let's say at the stay in your lane mentality. So it was something that I incorporated since that moment. And everything that I did, I had to understand really, really well why I was doing what I was doing. And I had to be part of the decision making. This company, it's not just any company, it had a very specific product culture. Since 2025, it grew massively. Today, it's the largest company in Latin America, not e-commerce, but in all companies of Latin America, it's one of the largest companies in the region. And today, it's larger than Amazon, larger than many other internet players by far. And basically, there is an element that we had in this initial team that shaped a culture that is different from most of the product teams that I met not only in other fellow companies that are from Latin America, but also in the world. Uh, and we had some quarterly meetings with our product team, and the CTO was repeating something that I didn't fully understand back then, but then it started making more sense to me. That is, to succeed at Mercado Libre, you need to be irreverent. And I was thinking about the image of an irreverent child, like somebody that is not following the rules. And after a few years in, let's say, my career outside of Mercado Libre, I started paying more attention to that difference. And I wanted to go to the definition of what irreverent means exactly. And irreverent means having or showing a lack of respect for someone or something that we usually treat with respect. And the question for us is, what do we usually treat with respect? And the question after that one is, what do we usually treat with respect that maybe doesn't deserve to treat with respect because we inherited from something else? And I will tell you a story. It's not a happy one, but it illustrates a little bit of the authorities that we sometimes follow that are not the right ones in our mind. Can be ideas, but can be also physical authorities or processes that we treat them as authorities. This is Avianca Flight 52, in 1999, flying from Bogota, Colombia to New York, JFK. And this is the transcript of the black box of that flight, where we have Captain Caviedes on the left, discussing with Sub-Commander Klotz. They were approaching New York, and they had a lot of fog, and they couldn't see exactly where the runway was. So the captain goes, the runway, where is it? I don't see it. I don't see it. We don't have fuel. He comments a little bit to himself that second part. I don't know what happened with the runway. I didn't see it. They moving to the situation that is happening while they are discussing. They take up the landing gear. The captain tells the sub-commander Klotz to ask for another traffic pattern, and then after 10 seconds, then they repeat that they don't have fuel. 17 seconds pass, and then the pilots give the technical instructions to each other. Finally, Sub-Commander Klotz responds that he didn't see the runway either, and the air traffic control comes in and tells them to make a left turn. So the captain instructs Sub-Commander Klotz the following way: tell them that we are in an emergency. Sub-Commander Klotz gets the radio and says to the air traffic controller, "That's right, to 180 on the heading, and oh, we'll try once again. We're running out of fuel." After that, the plane crashed a few minutes after that last message. And this case was presented in the book Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell as a case that illustrates the cultural elements of some behaviors that are completely irrational, like in this case, somebody that was effectively in an emergency, like Sub-Commander Klotz, but didn't have the attitude to speak up, to say, we need to find a runway right now. We cannot follow that command, because if we do that, we will run out of fuel. That instruction was never shared with the air traffic controller. And that situation illustrates how powerful that inertia of the authorities that we deal with is. He couldn't step up in a way, let's say, against the instruction of the air traffic controller or the captain by saying something in a different way that could have even sounded disrespectful, or could have been louder or more aggressive, or something that could transmit the level of emergency. So most of you that work in product, I believe that you don't work in life or death situations in your day-to-day. But how many times does it happen to you that you don't speak up, or somebody in your team sees that we don't have a clear runway, that we are running out of fuel, but we follow the path? So this might sound a little bit dramatic, but I'm sure that you're imagining situations at work where this is probably not, let's say, out of the ordinary, when we are very immersed in our day-to-day and the decision making and how we communicate between teams, leaders, and other people in the organization. So when we bring these stories together, how do we answer the question of why do product teams fail? I mentioned 95% before, because basically in my experience, that example that I lived at Mercado Libre, when I looked at other companies, even you can open your phone and see how many of the applications that you actually use every day have this pattern of being innovative, being surprising you positively every week, every month, having a seamless user experience. They have a lot in common with the experience that I told you my first company. And I believe that most of the company miss that point. And they have a lot of, let's say, influence of these authorities in people's mind that induce them and like into the inertia of not having shared objectives, or relying on a few people they call owners, or having a false sense of certainty. Of course, you can have more than one of these situations happening in the same team. So let's go one by one to go a little bit deeper of what we do about that. What happens when you don't have shared objectives? So you probably imagine the situation where you have an ambitious CEO, leader of the company, you have a sales team, people, in this case, we have a restaurant delivery platform, you have people preparing meals, and the delivery service itself. Each one of them is having their own objectives based on what they can do, and they are incentivized to do each of them the best way they can do on their own craft. But what happens when they don't have a common objective behind it? Some years ago, in 2018, 2019, Asana, the collaboration platform, they shared in their blog, Wavelength, I think it's the name of the blog of Asana, Uh, this concept of the pyramid of clarity, this is not new for strategy teams or other, let's say, teams that are used to talking about mission strategy and probably company leadership. But what they do that is very powerful in this pyramid of clarity, they illustrate the fact that the clarity happens when everything is cascaded from the same origin. That means there's a mission, the strategy is derived from that mission, there are company wide objectives that are derived from that strategy, and everything is connected clearly. It's not arbitrary, it's not based on what one person told the other person, but it's based on the structural clarity of the organization. So in the case of Asana, they have a mission that they say, we want to help humanity thrive by enabling all teams to work together effortlessly. And then we have a strategy that has 3 points: make a product that makes teamwork effortless, get that product to all teams, and make Asana the best company at doing 1 and 2. Very clear, very straightforward. What happens where I work today? Edenred, company with 45 plus business units across the planet. We have three very relevant businesses around benefits and engagement, around mobility, and around payment solutions. And we have a mission called Enrich Connections for Good. We structure the plan called Amplify. That defines a strategy between 2025 and 2028 and has 3 pillars: attract, enrich, and activate. And we have company wide objectives. For instance, by 2027, we need to reach between 8 and 12% EBITDA growth year over year. And of course, we have more objectives behind that one. And the objectives that we have at department levels, that we have at country levels, they derive from these company-wide objectives. You can even check this yourself at www.edenred.com/en/group/strategy. This is very straightforward as well. But once we define those first level of strategy, what happens with the objectives? Many times, leaders start delegating or cascading objectives based on what the team can do, what is the specialization of that team, and then to make sure that they can be productive in what they know how to do. But actually, what ends up working in favor of the broader team is doing what the organization needs more than what the team can improve or the team can do. So we can talk about 3 types of objectives, and then I would like you to tell me in the chat if you identify which company is the one that is represented by these 3 levels of objectives in the examples. So we have a first level that we can call aspirational. In books like Exponential Organizations, you can also see this as massive transformative purposes or MTP. There are other books that call it big, hairy, audacious goals, BHAG. And the example is make humanity multiplanetary. So this is very aspirational. It can be a goal shared by the company, and also you can use it as a mission statement. The second example is a performance objective or a key result. So in this case, we talk about reducing the rocket ship orbit cost to $10 per kilo. And the third one, it's an enabler objective. Make the rocket ship reusable. If you want to make humanity multiplanetary, you need to reduce the rocket ship orbit cost to $10 per kilo or similar target value. And to do that, you need to make the rocket ship reusable. So this system of the 3 levels of objectives will play across your objectives and key result and different levels of the organization. So there's a very nice example that you can check by yourself of a book written by John Doerr. John Doerr is the one who brought the OKRs concept to Google. He wrote the book Measure What Matters. And this other book called Speed and Scale, he tries to connect the problem of, let's say, sustainability or climate change into something that can be attacked and solved. You might agree or not with his approach, but basically, it's a very interesting way of tackling a very complex and ambiguous problem into something that can be translated in clear objectives and key results. An example of, I would say, disconnection with the common objectives is a story of the 1960s, where there was the space race between the US and Russia. Basically, the NASA started a project to develop what is called a space pen. Basically, it's not possible to write with a normal pen in space because you have no gravity and the ink doesn't go through the tube. So basically, they invested a couple of $1 million back then to make sure they could develop the space pen. In the meantime, the Russians were using pencil. What is the reflection in that case? How many situations like that we can think in our day-to-day and companies that we know and that we're attacking sometimes a solution, but not the actual problem behind it. So we move to step 2. That is talking about the people that we call owners. So who do we call owners? We have a position today in many product teams called product owner. So we talk about somebody who's responsible for defining the vision, managing the backlog, prioritizing needs, overseeing development, anticipating needs, acting as a primary liaison with stakeholders, evaluating the product process, participating in daily scrums, terminating a sprint, and many other things. What happens in this case? When we assign somebody as an owner, by definition, we tell everybody else that they are not owners. And that has some implications. So when you go back to your team and you ask each one of them, why are you building this? What are the chances that they actually know why they're building what they're building? And you might say, well, actually, not everybody needs to know everything about all the topics. And that's true. But we all need to know the rules of the game. So I will give you an example. Let's suppose that I'm a chess master and Hamza is working with me in the team. And Hamza knows the rules of chess, but he's not a chess master. So he has 2 choices. He can say, I will let Uriel solve this chess puzzle for me because he's a chess master, and I will go do something else and wish him good luck because he's not the chess master. The other option is that he trusts me to solve the problem, but as he knows the rules of chess, he can very easily validate if the way I solve the problem works. So this is a typical historical chess puzzle that you used to find. I don't know if it still happens, but you used to find in newspapers or magazines in different publications of chess puzzles that if you have 3 moves to win or to do checkmate, you could let's say solve the problem specifically. And it's not necessarily easy to solve it if you don't play chess, but if you know the rules, you can know if that solution works. So the analogy is, if you understand the objectives, if you understand the objectives and key results of your team, of the company, and the strategy behind, you don't need to be an expert in product. You don't need to be an expert in engineer or in marketing or in sales, but you know the rules of the game and you cannot ignore them. So you can validate if the problems we're solving make sense, if the solutions we are prioritizing to attack those problems have the right reasons behind. And that's not only something that you can do, but actually something that I recommend everybody in the team to pay attention to. There's another point when we talk about ownership that has to do with the trade-off between alignment and autonomy. This image comes from a series of videos that Spotify published between 2010 2012 about their engineering culture. And this illustrates pretty well how these two dimensions play together. So when you have a low alignment, low autonomy, it's chaos. When you have high alignment, low autonomy, there's a very directional and very explicit top-down approach from the leadership that says exactly what you need to do at every moment in the organization. When you have high autonomy, low alignment, there is lack of direction, and people start doing things without coordination, and the efforts start diverging. But when you have high alignment, high autonomy, there's a, enough level of clarity, but also the team can have a lot of space to figure out how to achieve those objectives. In a way, if you combine this pyramid of clarity with the right level of alignment and autonomy, this is very powerful, and you don't need to call a few people owners. Lastly, when we talk about the sense of certainty, uh, we can see some examples where teams and some people uh, work assuming that what they're doing is effectively going to have the impact that somebody else likes. So we saw the example of the space pan. People are forgetting the real problem behind in that case. We have other examples of teams committing to a solution that somebody else defined for them, but they're not actually looking around to understand the relevance, or if it's the right way to approach that solution. And of course, you can have a proven solution and a proven approach, but maybe in the context that you're at the moment, that solution is not the best, or that problem you're solving is not the best, and your context changed. So you need to review that. You're assuming certainty because you feel safe, but actually, it's not safe to ignore your context. So usually we apply a lot of impact slash effort analysis to make sure that we prioritize the things that give us the best trade-off. But there's a problem with that. When we talk about effort, we talk about the cost of doing something. Like, how much are we investing to make this a reality? And there's an article published by Douglas Hubbard around 20 years ago that talks about what is the reason for prioritizing based on cost. He wrote a book called How to Measure Anything. I recommend any product person to take a look at this. And what Douglas says is that even in projects with very uncertain development costs, we haven't found that those costs have significant information value for the investment decision. In other words, information about the development costs did not lower the expected opportunity lost, EOL in this case, as much as this information about other variables. Basically, just to summarize for you, he's saying, actually, if you look back, nothing would have changed if they prioritized different based on cost. The only thing that made a difference is if people were using their products or not. Here he uses the term the canceling projects or utilization. But when we look at the digital products that we talk about today, it's basically, do people use your products? And the way I like to approach this problem is to remove the concept of effort and talk about certainty. That means I want to prioritize high impact, but I'm not equally confident that everything that I'm putting here has the right level of impact that I'm assuming initially. So I want to be explicit on the level of certainty that I have about that impact. That means, if, for instance, even if it's something that requires a lot of effort, I can say, I'm not prioritizing this, not because I will take longer, but because I have less confidence in that this specific solution would drive the impact that we expect. You can solve this prioritization with an analogy. So everything that is low impact, low certainty, you can easily ignore it because you shouldn't spend time on that. But if you have something with high impact and you are certain that that is effectively the case, you need to do it right away. If you're, this is the analogy of a restaurant. If you have a meal to cook and it's the right meal, you go and cook it. It's the most important thing you can be doing. But once you did that, there are two things you can still do, and you should keep doing that even with a lower dedication if you have something to cook. That means with low impact and high certainty, you need to keep your kitchen clean. That needs to happen every day. You will not spend doing that most hours of the day, but you cannot spend a day or a week without cleaning the kitchen. And the same way happens with discovery. Discovery is a constant process. You will not dedicate most time of the team or the company doing discovery, but if you don't do it continuously, you will miss the high impact initiatives that you can drive later. This is related to the concept of hypothesis driven development that is basically summarized in this statement that says, we believe this capability will result in certain outcome, and we will have the confidence to proceed or to scale it once we measure that this is the case. The example we can see of this is when Ford Motors dressed a guy as a car seat to test the reaction of people in the streets with autonomous vehicles. That's a very cheap initiative to test. So, coming to the end, why do product teams fail? One, no share objectives. Two, they rely on very few owners. And three, they embrace a false sense of certainty. I would like to change the approach and say, how do the top 5% succeed? They are irreverent in this approach. They question the authorities that they believe in, and they do three things. They define shared success by sharing the same objectives. They make everyone an owner, and they embrace uncertainty. Thank you so much. I hope we have some time for questions. And sorry for the delay in the beginning.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you so much. That was a really informative session. I think it makes everyone want to buy Digital Irreverent. For our listeners, please scan the QR code or go to the website slido.com and then share any comments or any questions that you have. I'll give you some time. I can briefly go over what Product People does, and then we'll come back to the questions and wrap this live stream up. Let's talk about the use cases where that is covered by Product People. Our interim product managers and owners cover parental leaves, scale your product management team quickly, or lead key initiatives while bridging the gap. You can also get temporary help to drive product discovery and delivery for a deadline and create big impact in a short time. And we can also coach your product management team to reach their full potential through streamlining processes from 0 to 1. Here you can see some of our B2C clients, such as eBay, Deer, FreeNow, and DeepL. And when it comes to B2B clients, we've worked with companies like the World Health Organization, Ometria, Sastrify, and JetBrains. Last but not least, here are some important stats from our company. We have supported over 690 cross-functional teams and over 100 clients from Series A startups to publicly listed companies. We have 40 product leaders and product managers, and we take pride in having 59% women in our team with over 60% in leadership roles. Coming back to the questions for Uriel, let's see. Let me just quickly check if you have questions anywhere. Our first question is, if you're noticing that your team is now failing, how can you turn it around, especially if the team is resistant to change?
Thank you for the question. So basically, we will need to go deeper into why they're failing, right? So I shared three examples. On one case, they are not sharing objectives. So if they're not, they're failing because they are disconnected between them. I think bringing a little bit of clarity, like the example that I mentioned, I think it's very very important. The second case I mentioned about not sharing ownership. Sometimes they feel that the decisions are already made by somebody else. They don't feel part of that, and basically by bringing everybody to be a little bit more owner of what we're building, this changes that situation. But to be honest, not everybody likes to work that way, and sometimes when the team fails is because there's people that actually enjoy that other people tell them what to do. And what we need to think as leaders, product managers, and engineering leaders as well is, uh, will we succeed with that mindset, or should we build a team that is actually enjoying this process of being owners as well of this decision making? And lastly, this point of embracing uncertainty means that, do we actually understand the same way? How will we measure that what we do will succeed? So it's not about delivering a project on time, but it's about, okay, when that happens, how will we know that it's better for the company or the team? Will we be measuring how the user is having a better experience? Will we be measuring how the company increases revenue, or any combination of company goals? And I think once we have a common definition of that, the team starts understanding what success means.
Well, thank you. I hope it answered your question. And the next question is, as a product manager, how to work or react in a non-product led company? What tools do we have to change the rules?
So the first point is, when we talk about defining common objectives, sometimes it's hard when you are part of a larger company that hasn't done this for you. Basically, you cannot do an exercise by yourself by trying to understand the things that you are doing right now, the things that your team is doing. Can you put in words or in numbers what the objectives would be if you were the CEO? Like, if you imagine yourself as a CEO, can you put that in numbers or in words? Can you find the value behind those things? That doesn't mean that you will define them. That doesn't mean that that will be exactly correct, but it will force you to bring to the discussions with other leaders and other people in the organization a tone of impact driven or product driven approach. Because if we are doing things because somebody asked to somebody else, or a sales team asked me to do X or Y, and I ask the question about the impact, I can do it in a very curious way without necessarily being conflictive, but I can bring my curiosity as something positive, as trying to understand how we maximize that impact. And when I have numbers, when I have data to back up that curiosity, then the conversation starts shifting, and people realize that we have other ways of driving this impact. This is not easy in large organizations, but you should start with your team at least. And of course, for some people, the fact that we're discussing this today is also an awareness. There are many companies that are effectively product led, are effectively impact driven, and sometimes your call is to move to a company that is like this as well. So that depends on the battle that you choose in your career.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Thank you. Um, for time's sake, we'll move to our last two questions. If anyone has any more questions, feel free to comment below uh, on any platform that you are on, and then we can forward these to you, Uriel. Our second last question for now is how to take decisions during uncertainty when you have to explain why you build a product.
Basically, the decisions you make during uncertainty need to need to be connected, sorry, to the fact that you have a hypothesis behind them. So in the uncertain context, that is basically what most of us have to deal with in digital products, in this moment of the world. basically is what is the shorter step that I can take to increase my level of certainty about something, and also what is my opportunity cost? What are the other things that I should that I can be doing that have a higher reward? So depends on where that uncertainty comes from, but definitely we need to be able to answer if we go in a certain path, what is the success for us behind that path, and how certain are we that that is the case? If we are not certain, the immediate action is what can we do to increase the level of certainty before we invest more in that.
Yeah, thank you. And you might like the final question. It is, where can we buy your book?
Thank you for, for that question. So basically, you can go on Amazon, type Digital Irreverent, and you can buy it directly there. We also have the audiobook version, so you can find it on Spotify, Audible, and many other platforms. You can also find it in the, of course, all the audiobook platforms, and then in paper as well.
Okay, thank you. Um, thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Hamza.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining. It was a really good session, and I think we've all learned a lot. Um, Before I wrap it up, I'll quickly go over some more slides from Product People. Um, we'd like to mention that Product People is currently hiring for APM and PM roles. You can apply by scanning the QR code. You can also scan the second QR code to join our newsletter where you can share insights and your experiences. Coming up next week, we have a talk on scaling from 0 to 200 million ARR, how to scale business fast with less complexity with Jens. And I think that is it. Yeah, uh, thank you so much, Uriel. And we will forward any other questions over to you.
Thank you so much, Hamza and Product People team, and everyone joining.